It's the Jeremy Haselwood Show. What's good? What's good? Let's get ready to go.
Welcome to the Jeremy Haselwood Show. Plug in, turn it up.
Let's go.
Hey, hey. Welcome to the Jeremy Haselwood Show. Push play, let it roll.
Let's go.
What's good? Welcome to my show. In 3, 2, 1. Let's go.
Hello and welcome to the Jeremy Haselwood Show. This podcast is all about exploring a wide range of topics that spark curiosity, build community, inspire action, and deepen our understanding of the world around us. Before we get started, make sure you subscribe now on whatever platform you're seeing or hearing this by smashing that follow or subscribe button. This is the final episode of Season 3, where we've been shining the spotlight on women business owners, the trailblazers, innovators, and leaders who are redefining what it means to build with purpose. Each episode has brought you stories, strategies, and inspirations straight from the women who are creating businesses that make an impact. This season, we've celebrated and learned from the powerful voices of women in business. To cap off this final episode of Season 3, it's my honor today to be speaking with the quiet force in the entertainment industry. She's an NAACP Image Award winner, Grammy Award winner, Lifetime Achievement Award at the University of Oklahoma winner, Con AMPAV Festival winner. She's partnered with several titans in the industry, including Tyler Perry, Will and Jada, Mark Cuban, Shaka Khan, and the estates of Nina Simone and Octavia Butler. She's a writer, director, composer, creative, business owner, and founder of ODX Studio. She's also gave me my very first and only internship when I first moved to Atlanta back in the day. So it's my honor to bring on the show. Welcome, Nia Hill.
Thank you, Jeremy. Excited to be here, bro. Like, you should get props for the monologue that you just gave. Like, you should. This is what you should be doing. Appreciate
Hey,
that. Appreciate that.
you had so many things. I appreciate it. And I was like, there's so much, and I'm sure I left some accolades out. But, we can get into all that when we start talking. That should be enough to set the table for you.
I appreciate that. Gratitude.
Yeah, but I want to start back because we're both from Oklahoma, and I know we both have our stories of moving from Oklahoma. But even before that, you're involved in the entertainment industry. Take me back to your childhood and when you first got that itch to get into entertainment.
Yeah, that's good. So my childhood, I'm a child of two artists. So I want to lead with that. Both my mother and father are musicians. My father's a songwriter. My mother played the French horn. My father played the alto sax. Amazing. My mom was in a group with my aunts called the Three Dimensions of Joy. They did classical gospel back in the day. So I think I definitely got that gene early on. And I grew up specifically in a suburb of Oklahoma City called Dale City, Oklahoma. And I was raised, my parents met in high school their senior year, and they were soulmates, and they met in bands. I come from a large family on my mother's side, and so it was really my grandmother that raised me. My mom was 18, right? And my uncle had moved us into a neighborhood where we were the first Black family in the entire neighborhood. I grew up with not much culture around me in my schooling and outside of my family. And I don't know, and I'm being a little facetious here, but for the people who have not been to Oklahoma, it's not the most diverse place in the world now, and it certainly wasn't then. So elementary to junior high through high school, very limited amounts of interactions with people who look like me early on that I wasn't related to. That had a lot of influence on me when I finally left and went to the University of Oklahoma, graduated from there. So that's a little bit about my early childhood. I was always kind of storytelling. I started writing poetry young. I started being just creative and artistic in different ways around music and theater. And I would do Vicky Giovanni. I didn't know what to call it then because I wasn't aware that there was an industry for artists. I didn't have the language to describe myself really as an artist. When you're from places like that, if you're kind of smart, you get a job. I was going to be an international lawyer, get married, have some kids, and that was going to be my life. And that would have been a good life. It just wasn't the life I was destined to live.
Yeah, and I can certainly relate to it. And when you grow up in Oklahoma, it can be very isolating, like the things that you see on TV and movies and music just seems like a world away and not possible. And I know my experience, and I'm sure yours too, like when you're in Atlanta, you're like, the people doing it or you're making it happen. Absolutely. So it's just a regular way of life. But when you're in a city or grow up in a town where it's so far away, it doesn't even seem real.
Yeah.
But it sounds like you kind of grew up maybe around, at least some musicians and some people with entertainment in your family. It seems like it was a little bit in your blood.
A lot.
And at some point you got this calling. Like, how did you end up in Atlanta? Like, what
Yeah.
made you decide to go out there?
I had traveled to Spain with a couple of professors, really thirsty for some
Mm,
culture outside of the United States. And so the husband
mm,
and wife professors were from Spain. They agreed to teach me in a monastery
mm.
over there in a small town called
Wow.
Puerto de Santa Maria, which is in the city of Jerez,
Okay.
or there they say Jerez la
Yeah.
Frontera. So it was in the
Oh, that.
Andalusian region.
Yeah.
So I went over there. I told my grandmother,
Okay.
who was the first Black woman on the Board of Regents for the University of Oklahoma, hey, I
Wow.
want to do this. And she was like, okay,
Hmm.
go. And I went, and I was there for about,
Yeah.
I don't think I lasted a week because I wasn't fluent at that point. So I was called back, and I was like, you know what?
Yeah.
I,
Yeah.
I'd like to, can I just come on back home? Because they were not
Yeah. Yeah.
accommodating to
Yeah.
American Spanish. Such a
Yeah.
immense respect and passion for the culture, but
Yes.
not westernized at all. So they weren't looking to accommodate my lack of language skills at that point. I knew a lot of textbook, I could write it, but I couldn't speak it, especially with that specific kind of
Hmm.
dialect. So my
Right.
grandmother was
Right.
like, well, life is about choices. So this is a choice you made. So this is a choice you
Hmm.
get to experience.
Right.
Wisdom. I was like, okay, so that means I'm staying. All right. So stayed
Yeah.
there. Yeah,
Learned a
great
lesson.
lesson.
So you
I
stayed.
stayed.
Okay. I thought it was like you didn't last a week, so came home. But no,
Mm,
that's not where the
no,
story
no.
ends.
Every day I went to school. I was living in a youth hostel, and I went to this monastery, and
Wow.
they taught me, and I stayed there for, I don't know, a
Mm,
year. I was supposed to be there for a couple of months.
really?
Then I completely fell into the culture,
Yeah.
loved it, and then when it was
Yeah.
time
Yeah.
for me
Yeah.
to come back to the States, everybody was like, Atlanta's where it's at, and I was like, I don't know anything about Atlanta. Upon my return to the United States, this is the
Mm,
90s. Atlanta
yeah.
was the place that artists were coming together and building around music, and the
Mm,
culture was really,
yep.
really booming at that time. So I remember coming here for
Yep.
a trip for a weekend and walking into Hartsfield Airport. And so I had one
Hmm.
culture shock in Spain. I had a completely different culture shock in Atlanta. I looked around, the
Right.
mayor
Right.
was
Yep.
black, everybody's black. Now I'm immersed in all the black culture, and
Right.
it blew my mind.
Hmm.
Now it was a different phone call home to my grandmother, and I was like,
Yep.
like it sounds goofy now, like honestly,
Yeah.
real talk, but
Yeah. Yeah.
then,
Yeah.
I'm a kid, and the impact of seeing people who look like me own things, control things, build things impacted
Yes.
me forever. And so I think
Yep.
I even subconsciously at that moment decided, you know what? I'm going to do that. I can do that. I can build the things, I can own
Yep.
the things, I can control the things, and more importantly, I can create things that reflect the kinds of
Yeah.
people that I didn't get to grow up seeing a lot of.
Yeah, it's very true. Even though I'm of a different hue than you, coming to Atlanta from Oklahoma, it was really awesome to see people of color in roles. They're
That's
judges, they're
right.
doctors,
That's
they're
right.
attorneys. And we don't see that in Oklahoma
Right.
very often. So it was, in a way, it was a new world and a world beyond, what I had seen, what I'd grown up with. But I loved seeing that. I love seeing the diversity in the culture in Atlanta, which is why I
Mm-hmm.
stayed as well. So you settled in
Settled in
Atlanta.
Atlanta.
This season, we're talking about women business
Yeah.
owners. So walk me through some of the companies, like what that journey's been like in entrepreneurship for
Yeah,
you.
so the my first company was called the Solstice Group. It was around the concert booking. It's in the agency. While I was starting that company, I was also doing and learning theater with a regional company called the Jamandi. They were doing amazing theater, Sophisticated Ladies and Dream Girls and all this wonderful pieces of theatrical history, Colored Museum, of that. And that, I really worked my way up as an assistant stage manager
Yeah.
to a stage manager to ultimately producing theater under the umbrella of the Solstice Group. Had the booking agency which was primarily concerts, and I had agents that booked
Mm-hmm.
shows under that umbrella. And then on the
Yep.
other hand, I'd started producing
Mm-hmm.
theater. At that time,
Mm-hmm.
I was introduced to a gentleman by the name of Tyler Perry, and he had a couple of plays that was half written. We met, a friend said, hey, he's a playwright and she produces theater. You guys should, talk. We ended up setting up a
Mm-hmm.
meeting and talking about it. He had two pieces. He had a piece called Jazzman's Blues. We now know all these years later turned
Okay.
into a film, a piece
Yeah.
called I Know I've Been Changed, which was more of his
Mm-hmm.
autobiographical story, like his journey, his
Mm-hmm.
traumas, his healing, that story. And they were in two different circuits of theater. So on the one hand, you have, I hate to use the word, but they call it legit theater. So you have Broadway style theater,
Yeah.
which was
Okay.
Jazzman's Blues.
Yep.
And I had an affinity for that kind of theater because that's where I was trained.
Yeah.
And then you had the what they call the chitlin circuit, kind of the gospel plays, and that was
Mm-hmm.
really early at
Yep.
the time. And we certainly we weren't the first, but yeah. So we
Mm-hmm.
went back and forth, and we landed on, okay, we're going to do this show called I Know I've Been Changed. So for
Mm-hmm.
the next 3 years, I and my company and my team raised capital, brand and tour this show, which I helped to,
Yeah. Yeah.
in retrospect, helped finish writing and wrote some of the songs. And I was producing, so it was
Mm-hmm.
really more about the business side of that. But the artist side started to creep out
Yeah.
because anything that needed to be done creatively, I was able to jump into that bit as well. So that was
Yeah. Yeah.
earlier on, and we did that for 3 years until
Right.
we lost money and made money and lost money again, and had to hone in on how
Yep.
to communicate from a marketing and promotions perspective to the audience in the way that they
Yeah.
needed to receive it, right? How to invite them
Mm.
to this story in a way that they needed to be invited, not what my palette was. So there was
Yeah.
some wonderful lessons
Right.
around
Right.
how to do that I was able to get early on.
Yeah. So is that like rewriting parts of the script or different
No,
scenes,
it's really
or
on the
what did you
marketing.
have to do as
It's
far
really
as
on the marketing and
the
promotion
marketing
side.
piece?
Like, so my marketing
Gotcha.
materials, my
Gotcha.
radio spots, my TV commercials looked
Mm.
and felt a little more like legit theater, which works on Broadway for people who go
Yeah.
to those kinds of shows. But when you go to Detroit and St. Louis and
Yeah. Yeah.
Memphis
Yeah.
and Tennessee, South Carolina, North Carolina, all through the country, that isn't the kind of theater they're interested in, right? It's a different style of theater.
Right.
So
Right. Yeah.
my materials felt like Broadway shows, and the audience was telling me it's not that they don't like those kinds of shows, but they wanted a specific kind of story that they could
Yeah.
personally identify with. So then switch it up and learn how to
Right.
meet people
Right.
where they were in
Yeah.
terms of the kind of materials and
Yeah.
the manner in which I was speaking to them,
Mm.
and sort of
Yeah.
bringing Tyler the whole time. And he was really
Right. Right.
brilliant and prolific around bringing that his own, that he was being branded. That
Yeah.
was a powerful experience and learning experience until we got a
Mm-hmm.
national tour around
Yeah.
98. And then I Know I've Been Changed went
Okay.
on a full tour, as opposed to, we were doing what's called spot dates throughout the country.
All right. So you did that, and then the Strange Fruit. That was kind of at the
Yeah,
same
yeah.
time, right?
So that bled into
Okay.
coming from the Solstice group. As I was doing that, I was approached about creating a film, TV, commercial, music video company by two amazing women at the time. They were starting to
Mm-hmm.
form it. It was April and
Mm-hmm.
Tracy Baker. And when
Mm-hmm.
they asked me to come in, I was like, yeah, I really know the film TV game. So let me get into that a little bit. On the one hand, I have Tyler and the cast, Ann Nesby, LaShawn Pace, Latrice Pace, the famous Pace. I have this amazing cast on a national tour. I have 3 booking agents under the Solstice Group booking concerts. And then over here now I'm starting this film and
Mm-hmm.
TV company, a music video and commercial company that I was
Yeah.
brought into in the very early stages of figuring that bit out. So it was initially called Turkana, which is a nomadic tribe, I believe.
Okay.
And they brought me in. And then, speaking
Yeah.
to just my inherent disruption and need to be irreverent at 25, 26 years old, I said, I think we should call this company Strange Fruit, because I need people
Mm.
in Hollywood to remember the blood.
Wow.
So yeah, part of it was about the
Wow.
difference and the kind of the way I wanted to
Mm-hmm.
create images, and I wanted this company to be branded. And the other
Mm-hmm.
part was an homage to the ancestors for
Yeah.
all that
Yeah.
they instilled in me, to be able to be
Yeah.
in this position to move
Mm-hmm.
forward with a group of other women who'd come together to do the exact same
Yeah.
thing.
That's
Yeah.
amazing.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah.
So Strange Fruit Films. So we did all the
Yeah.
music videos for everybody in town, Outkast.
Mm-hmm.
Between here in New York, in LA, we grew to be a very big production company. And
Yeah.
then doing a lot of music videos at the price points that films are done. If you remember those good music video
Wow. Yeah,
days,
yeah,
independent,
yeah. Yeah,
they
they
don't do
don't do
that
that
anymore.
anymore.
The game has changed. But
Yeah.
so I
Yep.
studied the business
Wow.
of film with a couple of VC guys, venture
Yeah.
capitalists, that taught me the
Okay.
finance
Yep.
side of the film and television industry,
Mm.
because it was just really important to me. And I want to say this to you because I know you know this to be true. We do well,
Yeah.
many cultures do well at the show part of the business, at creating the things,
Mm.
at being the art and creating the art. But
Yes.
the part
Hmm.
that you've got to get a real understanding around is the business part of that show. Otherwise,
Yeah.
somebody else is
Yep.
going to always control your art, and you will be inherently and
Yes.
own
And
it,
own it.
and you will be inherently
Hmm.
limited. So I wasn't interested in
Yeah.
once I started to build and understand value and currency and the relationship
Hmm.
between someone else establishing your value for you versus you establishing your value for yourself,
Right.
then I said, okay,
Yes.
I am going to put myself and my team in a position so that we can be unlimited, infinitely unlimited in terms of our
Hmm.
value. That's
Yes.
been my philosophy my whole career. So that year, while I was touring, I know I've been changed. I put money up, and at that time, my former business partner, D'Angela Steed, I brought her into the company as Strange Fruit, as
Mm.
well as Tracy. We all put up the money for a film called Book of Love, which is an
Okay.
ensemble romantic comedy with Tretch and Robin Givens and Sally Richardson, and
Hmm.
Book of Love, the definitive reason why men
Nice.
are dogs. So romantic comedy. They
Uh,
sent me the script.
yeah.
I hadn't read many scripts, so I read it and I said, okay. They wanted
Hmm.
me to give it to Jermaine Dupree to fund, and I said, no, I
Hmm.
think we should fund this.
Yeah.
So we wrote a
Mm.
check,
That's dope.
and then went out to
Yeah.
LA
Yeah.
and further learned the business and how to create that.
Man, that's so important because the art is almost like the easy part. And not to take away from like the vision and the creative process
Sure.
and everything, but like you're saying, like we come to the table with the art, like we can do that. But knowing the business, like that's how you sustain for generations.
Sure.
That's how you can build wealth for you, generational wealth. 'Cause there's so many stories. I'm more familiar with the
Mm,
music industry than film, but just artists now like 40 years in still don't own
that's
their
right.
masters, and you have groups like Unorganized Noise who through the door like own
Yeah.
their masters. Like that's so dope. Like they don't have to wait for it, but there's really good artists that are still waiting just to own their masters. And for creatives out there or business owners period, like mainly creatives because of our conversation here, but it's like learn the
Yeah.
business. That's what I tell the artists. I'm still out here
Yeah.
sometimes, Nia. So I still see some younger
Mm,
artists, and I'm like,
yeah.
learn the business. Read some books about it. Own as much as you can. There's going to be times where you have to give and take, give up
That's
something,
right.
a piece of ownership maybe for a period of time, but make sure that there is an end date to when that ownership is. But don't give it all away. I think it's amazing what you did, and I don't know how you did all this. You said you were in your late 20s, then that's
Yeah.
probably how you did it.
That's
Like
probably
late
how
20s
I did.
with 3 different
Yeah.
businesses all over. Like that's crazy. You probably slept 4 hours a
If,
night, and
if.
that
But
was it.
honestly, one key
Yeah.
point, and you brought up organized noise. It's about aligning. And
Yeah.
so when I did Book of Love, and we went to Rico Wade and we said, look, we're doing this as Strange Fruit. We want
Mm.
to partner with Organized Noise to do all the music. So a
Yeah.
beautiful partnership was born,
Yeah.
and they
Yeah.
did all the music for that film.
Oh wow,
Yeah,
I didn't know
yeah.
that. Wow.
So shout out to
Okay.
Organized Noise, Outkast, Goody Mob,
Yes. And rest in
rest in
peace,
peace,
Rico,
Rico.
man.
A lot of
Yep.
cats were in music, and I was very intentional about finding an area in which we weren't typically present, not in
Yeah.
any
Yeah.
significant way, behind the scenes. So I said, you
Yeah.
guys do the
Wow.
music. I'm going to do this other industry over here because I don't want to hit
Hmm.
singles, triples, and I don't want this crabs in a barrel kind of mentality, which seemed to be really,
Right.
really present
Yes.
in that culture. So I spent a lot of time making sure, as much as I love and
Yep.
appreciate music and the creators of music, that's not the area of industry I
Yep.
wanted to focus on, right? Because there was a
Exactly.
level
Yep.
that there was a ceiling that at the time you had to get to. And if you
Hmm.
got the big check like Noontime at the time, it came with a lot of strings. So
Yeah.
I'm always thinking like, how
Yep.
do I control this
For sure.
IP that we're creating? How do I capitalize? How do I
Wow.
benefit people who are investing in this and ensure a return
Yeah.
in what's traditionally
Yeah.
known as a speculative industry? A lot of people don't have a lot of respect for
Yeah.
entertainment. A lot of friends in business and other
Mm-hmm.
industries think and thought that people in entertainment just aren't that bright.
And it's very feast and famine.
And it can be for a lot of people, right?
Yeah. But the ownership is what allows you to continue to eat. You know, when you don't have the ownership, it's more so famine
Yeah.
than feast. But when you have the ownership, you can still get that check
Yeah.
every quarter from publishing or whatever. I don't know how the film industry works, but like you can still receive those royalties consistently. And it's going to
Yeah.
your pocket, not to some
That's right.
company's pocket.
That's right. And back to the bit about how you do that, how I was able to
Hmm.
do all of those things at the
Yeah.
same time. Ultimately, it goes back to how to scale
Yeah.
yourself, right? So I had to have
Mm.
teams that were trusted and amazing at what they did so that I could scale myself to be able to oversee all of these from a macro level, right? Because I have people on the ground
Yeah.
who are equipped
Hmm.
and extremely talented at executing. Yeah.
Yeah. That takes a lot of trust too. Like to have teams working for you, especially with 3 different teams. How do you hire people? Like what qualities did you or do you look for to know like, okay, I feel like I can leave it in their hands? Because that's a hard part for me personally, is because I know my vision. I know how I want things to be done. And that's probably the biggest thing that I struggle with is just letting go and trusting someone to do it at a level that I need it to be done.
I say this often to people, if they're curious enough to
Mm.
ask, you don't have to trust me, but you've got to trust that I trust something bigger than me. So what I'm looking at
Mm.
in
Yeah.
people are some core value stuff. Are you integrous? Do you
Yeah.
even have a moral compass? It doesn't have
Hmm.
to be my moral compass. You've got to have some value system that you
Hmm.
operate within. Because no matter how
Yeah.
talented you are, if I can't trust you to be loyal to you, if you've got some unhealed stuff going on that you're not
Mm.
they're self-aware about or actively working on, I already know that there's going to be some betrayal, right? So there's a level of inner work
Yeah.
that has to be done. You sure I'm looking for the same qualities
Hmm.
anybody else will be looking for? Can you do the job?
Yeah.
Can you do it
Right. Right.
well? But it
Hmm.
also involves a lot of training. I'm going to
Hmm.
train you in the way that I see the vision for this brand.
Yeah.
And some people
Yeah.
can operate at that capacity and some people can't. And you've got to be
Yeah.
okay with both.
That's true.
You know what I mean? Like
Hmm.
I'm all about meeting people where they are, but here's what I know for sure. You often can't take them too quickly beyond their own understanding of their capacity. I've
Right.
always
Right.
wanted to, and I've been heartbroken sometimes, right? When
Yeah.
I've invested in
Yeah.
people and I just see what they don't see in themselves, then I have to stop and go, like,
Yeah.
you're seeing all of this bandwidth in them, but they don't see
Hmm.
it yet. And there's
Yeah.
nothing you can do to make
Yeah.
them see it. That is bigger. That is something, that is a
Hmm.
God thing. That is something they've got to work out.
Yeah.
It's not for me to do. I can just encourage and instill and pour, and sow into the
Hmm.
soil in the way that people did for me, by the way. So I'm looking at the
Yeah.
soil, right? And I'm looking at the depth of the roots of the being, of the person, and how deeply and firmly that's planted. Because what's definitely
Yeah.
coming are the storms.
Oh yeah. And how can you handle that?
Will you
Will
be
you be
ready?
ready?
I can simplify that construct and say, ultimately, bells and whistles aside, I'm in the people business. I'm in the human being
Hmm.
business. So human beings are
Yeah.
inherently complex. You have to get away, I think, from this mentality of comparison and jealousy and this person, I'm better than this person, ego and pride and all of these things. Everybody,
Yeah.
in my experience, has some amount of gifting. Everybody has some
Yeah.
purpose that they are here to do, right?
Hmm.
That were put into them,
Yeah.
right? So I'm always just looking at
Well,
bandwidth, capacity, and alignment.
and I'll say, like, from a personal story about you that you may not remember, when I worked for you back in the day with the
Okay.
Solstice Group, it's a good
No, it could
story.
go
It's a
either
good
way.
story.
I'm open to all
But
of
everything,
it. I'm open to all of it.
no, because I saw your
No.
face. I'm like, no, it's a good story. This is a good story. I have no bad stories about you. My experience has always been good. But it just reinforces like what you just said and how you really care about people and people that work for you, because when I worked for you during that internship. I had just moved to Atlanta like in June of that year, and school was coming up, and you were talking to me about school because I'd left Oklahoma after my junior year in college, and you sat me down and you're like, Jeremy, what are you doing with school? Like, you had 3 years done. Like, are you going to finish? And I was like, yeah, I'm going to finish, Nia. Like, that's my goal. Like, I'm taking a year off to establish my residency so I don't have to pay out of state tuition, but I'm going back to school. And you were concerned. You were like, Jeremy, so many people say that they're going to do that, but they never do it. She's like, I want you to get back in school and get your education. I was like, yeah, I am. That is the plan. You know, I have the vision, I have the plan, but you know, you cared about me and you were very supportive of just me as a person and the opportunities that I had, that I came to Atlanta for. And it wasn't just the music, it was also to finish what I started. So that always stuck with me, like you caring about me as a person. So I always appreciated that. And I think about it from time to time. I was actually telling someone about you probably last month. I was like, yeah, I used to have this internship, and Nia ran it, and I was telling that same story, but just how caring about people, caring about your employees, it really makes a difference, and not just looking at them as a unit of work, but really investing in their well-being. And to your point, sometimes you can be heartbroken because there's people that you pour into, and they're just like, they just let you down, or there's that, we'll call it betrayal, and it's like, because it's a relationship. You know, anytime a relationship dissolves, it's always painful, especially when you put time and energy into it. I want to move on to your current company, ODX Studios. Tell me about that.
So ODX Studios is a reimagination. It's a company that has been reimagined from a company that I launched back in 2005. What was happening at the time in the industry, and by the industry in entertainment, specifically TV and film, there was disruption happening in 2005 around home video. That was the big disruptor. Blockbuster, people weren't going to theaters anymore. They were watching movies at home.
Yep.
And that bit, I'd made a film called The Seat Filler, myself and Will and Tisha Campbell Martin and Dwayne. And so we make this film, and I have to back into to a bit of my strategy. So I never made a film for more than I knew the market would bear on a sale on the other side, right? So I always backed into the budget from that perspective. I can spend $2 million on this film. I can spend under 2.5, but I have to have this cast.
Yeah.
Right. Because what I'm not going to do is I'm not going to expect that I sell it to a studio, and I'm not going to have the expectation that I nor my investors are going to see any back end points. So that's thrown away in my mind. It's in the contract, it's there, but they're going to net it out. That's just what they do. That's how they're built, right?
Yeah.
So
it's like, we didn't make any money. Sorry.
Because we cross-collateralized your project with all these other ones, and we took admin out, and we took all, you got to get hip to the game, right? So I was like, all right. But at this point, we had made it right at the turning point where theatrical was taking a hit. I remember going to Will and Dwayne with this business plan called the Momentum Experience, which was essentially a theatrical film distribution model. So going back, all the way back to my days with Tyler and my touring experience, I said, look, why don't we take this film, The Seat Filler, which was Kelly Rowland's first acting role, right? And Dwayne played out her. It was a great cast. D. Ray Davis was a really great little movie, another romantic comedy. And I said, we should take this out ourselves. We should be the studio. And Will read my business plan, and against maybe a lot of the traditional, the agent he had at the agency he was with at the time, and the studio that was putting out all of his films at the time. And you got to remember now, Will's the biggest star in the world at this point. All the attorneys, all his attorneys, everybody's, who is this little girl? You're going to let her use your global brand that's worth billions and billions and billions of dollars? And you know what? To his credit, he was like, yeah, actually I am. So having his support was tremendous. And what we did was, the concept was, we'll tour this film, we'll curate an added experience around the film, and we'll put it out ourselves. And so that's where the partnership with Mark Cuban came in. His company, Magnolia Pictures, partnered with for the ancillary revenue windows after theatrical. So that's your your cable, cable, all the different ways that you can, you know, when you see it on the planes, all of those are windows for profit, right? That you put the IP through that create profit or revenue, I should say. So all of those ancillary windows were controlled. I offered a partnership to his company to control those windows on the IP, but I said we control the theatrical. Now, just by way of understanding
Yes.
theatrical, when a film is released out into the world domestically initially, that is the main driver into all of those ancillary windows. So when it does well in the theaters,
Yeah. It
then
makes
it's
sense.
going to do well. That is the revenue driver into, right?
The post. That makes
So there
sense.
you go. So
Yeah, yeah.
then I negotiated a like what's called a gross corridor window. So even though I'm gonna let you control those windows, I'm gonna take my company is now gonna take a gross position, meaning every dollar that you make, you're gonna have to give me a percentage of that money in perpetuity, right? Which
Yes.
means forever.
Wow. Yeah.
So
Oh, I
yeah,
know what
but just
perpetuity
for the
means.
audience, you know what I mean? Forever,
Forever,
ever,
ever, forever,
forever,
ever.
ever, forever, ever.
Yep.
But in order also to get that control and to get these windows, you're going to have to pay
Yep.
me several $1,000,000 up front. Boom. Okay, so we
Yeah.
do that, and then
There
we
you
tour
go.
it and go to Detroit and Atlanta and DC, and we play not the multiplexes, we play the opera houses, the old movie houses. So they have 2 to 5,000
Yeah,
seats.
yeah, yeah.
So it became a movement
Yep.
and an experience. Blair Underwood, dear friend, helped as a part of that. So that was the origin story to what is now called the One
Oh,
Drop experience. The
okay.
One Drop
Cool.
experience, we actually start first quarter next year. We launch. So for the past year, I've got a team that's been building this out, and again, back to scaling, right? That's been helping to build this out. An
Yeah.
incredible business partner, Michael Derek Thomas, who is a prolific financial modelist, strategist, and he scales companies. That's what he does, right? And so this is
Yeah.
his entree into the entertainment industry. And so we're partners on this now. So now the One Drop experience is taking nostalgic films, curating an experience around an
Okay.
immersive experience around that IP and touring it.
Nice.
The
Okay.
that the only point of difference is the same alternative distribution system, and by alternative we just mean not traditional Hollywood theatrical release. So we negotiated a deal with DreamWorks Paramount, or Paramount, who owns DreamWorks,
Cool, cool.
for their whole catalog.
Yep.
And that also
Really?
includes the
Wow.
catalog of Miramax, DreamWorks, CBS, BET, MTV, all of the catalogs under that
Yep.
umbrella, which is now Skydance Paramount. That's our partnership. So through that partnership, we identified Dreamgirls, the movie, to be the first film that we released through that.
Okay.
So that
Yeah, yeah,
launches
yeah.
in February of
Okay.
2026, and we'll be touring the country
26.
and creating the experience. You'll walk into the era of Motown when you walk into the theater. The people
Yeah.
will be dressed like we'll invite that
Like
era.
that era.
We have a community reinvestment piece where we give a percentage to every market that we hit. Atlanta, Detroit,
Nice.
St. Louis.
That's so
It's
good.
necessary.
Yep.
You can't take from a community that so desperately needs and not give back into it. That's just fundamental
Yeah.
laws
Yeah.
of,
Gosh.
I mean, business with a purpose. There's all kind of catchphrases around it, but this is really, how we
Yeah,
see
yeah.
things. And then on the other side, we have a creative participation pool where no matter what the back end deal was with the studio on the points for the filmmakers and creators, we give them
Yeah.
additional monies through the One Drop experience. Yeah.
Okay. Wow. Well, I'm looking forward to that and keeping up with you to see how it goes. And I know you're going to be in Atlanta, so I've got to check out the
Yeah,
Dreamgirls
when
when
we hit
y'all hit
Atlanta,
Atlanta for
we'll
that.
probably, I think we hit the Fox in Atlanta at some point for first
Fox?
quarter.
Okay. That'll
So
be
yeah,
awesome.
excited about that.
Yeah. The entertainment business is a really tough business. So for you being a woman of color, like what has your experience been like?
It's a tough industry for anybody. We moved Strange Fruit from Atlanta to LA in 2000, and I kept it out there for the
Okay.
next 14 years or so. There was a lot of growth, both personally and professionally, a lot of experiences that I would love to say I would take back, but they built character. Being a
Yeah.
little black
Yeah.
girl from Oklahoma, there were just certain things I wasn't willing to sell. One main thing was my soul.
Yeah.
There was no amount of
Yeah.
money you were gonna be able to offer me to get me to move off my square. Like, I'm not doing that part. And at the
Appreciate that.
point that I
Yeah.
felt
That's great.
that could be potentially compromised, I just pulled back. But I would say being a Black woman in this
Mm-hmm.
industry is great. It
And
requires
yeah.
a certain amount of understanding, going back to valuing yourself, how to move
Mm,
amidst the sharks,
yeah.
because a lot of these people
Yeah.
do come out there broken, and they do come out there. I mean, they may look
Yeah.
like celebrity, but on the inside there's a lot of brokenness. And so
Mm-hmm.
I had to get aligned around why I was
Yeah.
sent out there. I never had a dream to
Mm,
go to LA or Hollywood. As a matter of fact, I went kicking and screaming. I was like,
yeah.
I'm good.
Yeah.
I
Like,
need
no.
real things. You know what I
Yep.
mean? I don't need facades, and I don't need masks, and I need, like, I operate
Yes.
authenticity. And I'm not saying that I always operated with a level of wisdom. I was a kid running around this country at 20, you know what I
Sure.
mean, trying to figure it
Yeah,
out. But
of
I'm saying at
course.
this point,
Yeah.
I'm like,
Yep.
okay, this is a state of mind and a state of spirit. You have to get really clear about what you're there to do. And when I got the message that I was on assignment, and my assignment was to use storytelling to pour light into the dark
Mm,
areas around the world. Once I knew
yeah.
that,
I
then
love
it
that.
was
It's very
clear.
clear,
Like,
huh?
this is not
Yeah.
about you. This is about why you were put
Yeah.
on this earth with the gifts that you have,
Yes.
and what you are supposed to do with those gifts. You have to honor that
Mm,
responsibility. If they were given to me
man.
and I don't use them, I'm just the vessel. They'll be given to somebody else
Yeah.
because it has to get done.
That's right.
So, and let's be clear, I
Yeah.
ran.
Speaking my
I
language, man.
ran. I mean, I don't know anybody
Yep.
who's going through any version of their hero's journey and you're at the dark night of the soul part. I don't know anybody that's going
Yes.
like, yeah,
Yep.
I'm here,
Yep.
I'll jump in. Nah, everybody I know, I don't care how big, how
Right.
much money they have. Everybody I know is like, nah, I'm good. Can I just pause on that part? Because what it
Exactly.
take, you don't know.
Like, I'm gonna tap out here.
Yeah,
You
just
take it from here. It's
can
like,
somebody
no,
tap in here? Because I'm tired, I'm
tap me out.
exhausted, I've been through
Yep.
betrayal, I've been through
Yes.
disloyalty and
Mm,
mistrust, and I could choose to be bitter, but I need to hold on to my joy, because you can't work in the spirit of
yes. Yep.
lightness and be
Mm,
bitter and be holding
yep.
on to, oh, that person did this to me, or this person betrayed me then, and that is an old story. You know what I mean? And that those old
Yeah.
stories
Yeah.
may have been necessary at the time that they happened for you to get a lesson. But now I'm trying to
Exactly.
get to
Yes.
the part of my journey where I can get the elixir and bring that home. You know what I'm
Yep.
saying?
Yep.
Boy, that was a very, very long way to get to a potentially simple answer, which is,
Well.
I think I'm both limitless, and to the people that think that
Mm-hmm.
being a Black woman in this game is limited, I would just say shift your lens,
Mm,
because this is about
yeah.
green.
Yeah.
All this right here, all this out here
Yeah.
is green.
Mm,
So if you figure out the
yep.
currency of
Yep.
any industry and how to
Yeah.
monetize that in such a way that is, at least in my world, beneficial, and all boats rise. So everybody, you do deals in the spirit of
Yeah.
everybody winning, not just winning for yourself.
Yep.
And I'm not
Right.
saying that's the
Yes. Yes.
blueprint for Hollywood, because it's not. The blueprint for Hollywood
Yeah.
is not
It's
that. I'm
definitely
saying
not. It's everything
it's
that
the
is
exact
opposite of what
opposite.
you just
So I
said.
don't want to speak any
Yeah. Yeah.
illusion or in any way that suggests that I'm in any way delusional about that. But I just
Sure.
made sure that however they operate doesn't have to be how I operate. So I don't believe in,
Yeah. Yeah.
becoming reliant on man-made systems that are only made for the benefit
Mm-hmm.
of man.
Mm-hmm.
So I'll say that again. I don't believe
Yeah.
in becoming dependent on systems that man makes only for the benefit of man. So what I intend to do,
Mm-hmm.
and what I am doing instead, is creating a system, separate system, with a whole different set of
Yep.
philosophies and values and present and spiritual dynamics that
Yeah.
align with my purpose.
Yep.
That was a long way to answer
Hey.
that very short question, but
No, no. You reinforce a lot of what I talk about, though, which is really clarity and purpose. And when you know what your purpose is, it clears up a lot
yeah,
of BS. It helps you say
yeah,
no to a
that's
lot
right.
of things, and it helps you say yes to the
That's
right
right.
things. So it really kind of makes the way that you function in life easier, because you're not trying to see what sticks, and you're not swayed as much by, let me try this, let me try that. Because when you're clear on
Yeah,
what your purpose is, you know that you're not going to try that, because that's not where you're
sure.
intended to be. You know that this is the path that I'm on. And I know it certainly helped clear me up a lot of saying no to things, whether it's business opportunities or whatever. I'm like, that's just not where I'm at. That's
That's
not
right.
where I'm going. So good luck to you though with what you got going on, but it's just not
That's
for where
right.
I'm at. About the business, tell me what you love most about your companies. Like, what do you love most about being an entrepreneur?
I love being able to wake up every day with a level of understanding around and alignment around what I'm here to do and not having to be
Mm,
accountable to anybody but my source, my God, whatever you call that. People call that different things, but that's who I'm accountable to.
mm,
So there's some area of confusion around like entrepreneurship versus having a job. Like somehow you get to work when you want to
yeah.
and you get to play when you want to, but in my experience I
Right.
work more than most of my friends who
Mm,
have jobs. So going back
yeah.
to I think
Right.
that bit, I enjoy that I get to make every day exactly what I want it to be, and I
Yeah.
like the freedom of that. We've known each other for a long time, so a few decades
Hmm.
later I've never done anything other than what I do. I don't have a side
Yeah.
gig. I
Yeah.
don't, you know what I'm saying? So that's an abundant life
Yeah.
in terms of how I define success.
Yeah. So, Nia, you've been diagnosed with what was formerly known as Asperger's, now known as autism spectrum disorder or ASD. Tell me about how that diagnosis impacted you, maybe before and after you were aware of it.
Quick backstory, speaking to mental health. My father had
Mm,
challenges around mental health and some diagnosis. My mother, a little more undiagnosed. So I was keen to be conscious of any predisposition to any mental health dynamic. So it's something I was
mm,
always, you
yeah.
check in physical health and your emotional
Yeah.
health. And just because of the tragic way that my father passed, he took his own life.
Sorry to
Yeah.
hear that.
He was in a lot of pain. So I have a lot to honor. There's a lot that he gave me to complete,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So that said, my first diagnosis was ADHD, and I was like 35, and I was like, I don't
Okay.
know what, like, is that what
Yeah.
kids? I don't really. What is
Right.
like? How are y'all even
Yeah.
diagnosing me with that? But I was starting to get anxiety, and I didn't know where it was
Mm,
coming from. I
okay.
didn't know what it was being triggered by or
Mm,
anything like that. And so there is a connection around depression and anxiety with ADHD, or there can be, especially when
mm,
your brain works a certain way and the people
okay.
around you are like, well, why can't you just do that? You can point A to point B to
Right.
point
Right.
Z. Meanwhile, I'm over here, I'm over there. You know what I mean? I personally have come to understand it as a superpower. So my initial diagnosis was ADHD, which I didn't believe.
Okay.
So I went to another psychiatrist,
Yeah.
same diagnosis. I went to 5 psychiatrists before I was like,
Yeah.
all right, fine, fine, fine.
You got a
I got
second, third,
5
fourth, fifth
opinions.
opinion.
And
Yeah.
finally, I said, okay, this is what I have. Now, how do I manage it? And one
Mm,
suggested medication. I was
yes.
like, I'm not doing medication. I did have completion issues. I had some executive functioning issues.
Okay. Mm,
But
mm-hmm.
it was also extremely helpful that how I was able to do all, I could jump over here, jump over there. So,
Right. Right. Yeah. Yeah.
I
Yeah.
hate that they call it a disorder, right? It just means my brain operates differently. So a group of
Yes.
women, a group of really amazing women who have children on the spectrum at various points,
Okay.
from nonverbal, low functioning to verbal, high functioning to Asperger's. It's all under ASD. They'd asked me when
Yep.
I was pivoting into, and
Mm,
I didn't get into a lot of this, but finally surrendering to the artist in me because I'd just been producing and
yeah.
then like non-credited writing,
Mm,
directing behind the scenes.
mm,
Because in my mind, I
yeah.
just
Yeah.
thought
Yeah.
that being like an artist is going to require such a level of vulnerability that now I'm going to put all my
Mm,
soul, all my stuff out there, and people get to judging it,
yeah.
right?
Right. Right. Right.
So I ran for a long time from
Yeah.
that, a long time. I was terrified.
Mm,
I was terrified to
yeah.
be that vulnerable. And when I finally
Mm,
stepped into it, it was the most magical thing ever. And so part of
that's
that
great.
was these
Yeah.
women, including Tisha Campbell and LaDonna Hughley and Shannon Nash and am I missing it? Tammy McCrary, Tammy
Hmm.
Michelle, who's Shaka Khan's sisters. So that leads to how I met Shaka and started working
Okay.
with them. And so they all had children on spend. They met with me and
Yeah.
they said, listen, we want you to write and direct. So we have a director already, but Tisha said I prayed about it and I
Hmm.
think it's supposed to be you. And I was like, me? I only have
Wow.
ADHD. Like, well, I mean, what do I know about autism?
Yeah. Yeah.
But I had enough good sense to say,
Yeah.
if you guys wouldn't mind, let me pray about it. Let me go into some meditation. I was living in Manhattan Beach at the time,
Yes.
close to the water. So I remember going down
Okay.
there and just
Yep.
hearing, and I said, if I get a vision, because they didn't know how they wanted to tell their story, they just knew that they finally were ready to tell their
Mm.
story. So
Yeah.
what ultimately
Yeah.
happened was I did get a vision for how to tell these stories, and that was part documentary and part scripted. So I wrote a script about a family that
Okay.
got the diagnosis, and then I interviewed the
Okay.
women, and it intercuts this
Okay.
family. The parents were played by Blair Underwood and Nicole Ari Parker, and the child,
Okay.
John Duffy, played the son. And I shot it at my
Mm.
house. I shot the interviews at my house,
Oh wow.
and
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
made this film. And after we did the film, we went to DC and
Mm.
lobbied to have legislation put in place so that underserved communities where the higher diagnoses were happening around people of color, but it was the not where the money
Yes.
was going,
Yes.
and not where the conversations
Right.
were
Right.
being had around mental health because of the cultural stigma,
Mm-hmm.
what that means. So
Yeah.
we lobbied, we got the Latino caucus and the Black caucus to come together. We did some white paper. We got a pro bono
Mm-hmm.
firm to represent us. And Obama was in office. So we got that legislation passed in one day. Those women did that in one
Great.
day. So it's on the
Wow.
books. Yeah.
That's amazing. Like that never happens. That's
Well,
crazy.
yeah, not without some
Wow. What?
super divine grace and provision, right? So
Yeah.
that led to, after the fact, now we're touring the film, showing it for Delta and Viacom and other big companies, and doing talkbacks. And
Mm-hmm.
at one point, the women got together, and after experiencing me and my neurobehavior for a while, sat me down and said, "Hey, we know you think you're just ADHD, but we believe you're on the spectrum. You're Asperger's." Our experience with it
Okay.
and that sort of thing. And so then I went on to get a formal diagnosis. So definitely the Asperger's
Yeah.
and the ADHD, they play in the same category from a mental health psychiatric
Okay.
standpoint. So yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, that was the beginning of another diagnosis around my mental
Yeah.
health. All it really means is that my brain operates in a way that may be confusing to some people sometimes. A lot of people on the spectrum
Mm-hmm.
at the Asperger's level where it's high functioning, it's really hard to tell because they're doing so much
Right.
masking. You learn to mask really young,
Yes.
which means you just present in a
Yes.
way that
Yes.
other people can understand, but it's exhausting because then you
Mm-hmm.
got to go
Yeah.
back and take the mask off, and it's just a lot of energy you're putting on a
Mm-hmm.
mask to move through life so people don't think
Yeah.
you're strange, or you know
So
what I mean. I don't have a filter, so I'm going to say the
right.
thing, I'm
Yeah.
going to say the main thing
Exactly.
directly.
Yeah.
um so it
Yeah.
was really a beautiful gift that they were able to give to me. I was chose to tell a story that I didn't think I was equipped for. Now I'm telling it from the perspective of this child,
Yeah.
the brain of the child with
Mm-hmm.
autism. So it could have been
Right. Right.
apparent to me,
Wow.
but it wasn't. It was apparent to them.
Yeah. It's like I'm gonna tell somebody
Yeah.
else's story.
So I mean, but
Yeah.
that's my life.
But for you,
Mhm.
did you feel constrained before, like the masking that you talk about? Is that been your experience, and was it like this liberation when you really got the diagnosis and were like, oh, I feel free knowing what it is and how to
Yeah,
move with
because it can
this
be challenging
diagnosis?
in relationships and partnerships and
Yeah,
romantic relationships. Like it can be challenging for
yeah,
somebody on the other side to know when you're going through any kind of sort of emotional dysregulation or
sure,
any of
sure,
those kinds of things. So yeah, did I feel free?
yeah.
1,000,000%.
Wow,
Do I feel
no,
free
that's great.
now?
Mm,
Yeah, because I don't mask. Like I'm gonna give you
yeah,
the things,
yeah.
right? And this is the thing. I'm gonna
He is
give you
gonna
all
give
the
you the
things. Like
things.
this is just what it is. And
Yeah, whether you want them or not, here it
I'm just
is.
gonna
Yep.
not, but the need to mask to accommodate everybody
Yeah,
else, that had to go away. That had to go away because it was
yeah.
so
No.
mentally, emotionally, physically draining. I would just be fatigued by
Mm,
the end of the day. You know what I
yeah,
mean? And I'd
yeah.
sometimes have to shut down for a week and just not deal with people. And then there's the
Mm-hmm.
overstimulation
Mm-hmm.
part, too much light, too many people. I'm overwhelmed,
Yes.
and
Yes.
so there are tenets of it that can be
Wow. Yeah.
challenging, but mostly it's amazing. And I get to work
Yeah.
with other people on the spectrum, and we get to talk about it, and
Mm-hmm.
any sort of blocks we have.
Yeah. You can like
Oh,
find
absolutely.
community. That's relatability. There's other people
Yeah.
like me.
Yeah.
That's great. Thank you for being just opening up about this, being vulnerable about it, because your voice is so important to help
Mm.
others. I feel very grateful and humbled that you're having that conversation. So thank you for opening
No,
up
of
about that.
course. Not even of course.
Um,
Let me just be very
yeah.
specific. First of all, you're welcome. I
Yeah.
received the thanks. I don't know that I was at a
Hmm.
point then that I was like, okay, I'm ready to tell the world because I was still understanding what it meant.
Yeah, of
Um,
course. Yeah. Yep.
I still learn more and more about myself and how
Hmm.
my
Yeah.
neurodiversity, what it
Hmm.
needs, and how I can best care for myself so it doesn't become anybody
Yeah.
else's responsibility but mine.
Shifting back to looking at your career up to this point, what would you say you've learned about yourself on this journey?
On this journey, I've learned that I'm resilient, right? I've learned that my faith has stretched. It's always stretching. I've learned that I have
Hmm.
a large capacity for love, like an immense capacity for love, for giving love and for receiving
Yeah.
love, which was a hard thing for me, receiving. Still get challenged with that a little
Yeah.
bit, right? That goes back to
Hmm.
some early childhood stuff. I've learned that not only do I actually like myself, but I've actually learned how to love myself deeply and
Yes.
value myself.
Yeah.
And you can do that without any expense, right? It doesn't cost. But at the
Hmm.
point that I didn't love myself,
Yeah.
I had to learn boundaries so that I could figure out and
Mm.
fill those holes. And it's a lot of work, it's a lot of self work, but I don't know how you can be an
Yeah.
artist and not do that kind of work because otherwise I'm telling stories that are
Yes.
imposed on as the vessel. I'm
Mm.
imposing my own stuff on those stories. So I've got to move with a level of clarity within myself and self-awareness and introspection so that the stories can come
Yeah.
through without
Yeah.
me,
Yeah.
Nia,
No, that makes
tainting
sense.
them, right? Yeah.
And speaking to the women who are listening to this podcast, if you could instill hope in another woman who's considering starting her own business, what would you say to her?
I mean, I think the biggest blocker for anybody doing anything is fear. I would say get equipped, get the information, learn and respect the craft in the area of industry that you are entering, and then go. Even if you're scared, do it anyway.
Yes.
Be audacious about it.
Yes.
Even those with really large, imaginations and capacity for vision can be limited around our own personal ability and bandwidth. And so I would just say, stop caring what people say, but I mean, really stop caring what it looks like on the outside and start caring what it looks like on the inside. Because you already have
Mm.
everything you need, and the
Wow.
things that you don't have will show up as you walk down the path. The further you get, it
Yes.
shows up. If
Wow.
it's a vision, if it's an assignment,
Hmm.
as you step into that business, you don't need all the things before you start. You need those fundamental
Yes.
things. You
Yep.
need that value system, that core, and you need to have a vision around how you want to present, right? After that,
Hmm.
everything else shows up. People will show up to
Yeah.
support your vision.
That's so good. Yes.
Yeah,
100%. Thank you for that. That is words of wisdom because I've seen that happen in my life, other people's. Like, just go after it and the pieces
yeah,
will show up. You don't have to have every single step and everything planned. Just make
that's right.
movement. When the movement is there and it's your path where you're supposed to be on, like, things are going to align. The people will show up, the
That's right.
conversations, the
That's right.
doors will open, but you can't do any of that unless you just go. So I think that's great wisdom.
Of
Thank you for
course.
sharing that. So we
All
have reached
right.
the time where we're going to pull out
All
the
right.
clarity
All
cards.
right.
Here we go. So your card is, what motivates you to get out of bed in the morning? What motivates you to get out of bed in the morning?
Simple. The assignment. That's it.
That's
I'm on
it.
assignment. I get to be on assignment. I get
Hmm.
to tell amazing stories. I get to build visions that were divinely assigned for me. I get to execute. I get to implement.
Mm.
I get to do these things. It's not a have to. It's like
Yes.
I get to
You get
do.
to.
I get to do this. This little girl from Oklahoma gets to do
Yes.
this every day.
Yeah.
Like
Wow.
that's a blessing magnificent that I'm sometimes speechless at how to
Yes.
express the level of gratitude that I have for that. You know what I mean? Like, wow, I get to
Yeah.
do this. So then it just is simple.
Yeah.
I am enough. I was always enough. And I'll always
Yes.
be striving to
Yep.
to be more than enough for somebody else. But
Yes.
first for myself.
Yeah. Now that's amazing. And it sounds like a woman walking in her purpose and confirmation all around you and the
Thank
light
you.
shining to say you're doing exactly what you're supposed
Thank
to be
you.
doing. Nia Hill, thank you so much. This has been a wonderful conversation. It's been a masterclass for
Hmm.
me. It's also been great catching up with you. Thank you for your vulnerability,
Absolutely.
you sharing your story. And I know there's so much more. There could be a part 2, 3, 4, but hey, man, this is what we got. This is what we have, because there's so much more that we didn't even
Yeah,
get into. But thank you for taking time to
of
meet with
course.
me. If people wanted to reach out and connect you, what's a good way that they could do that?
So my production company is bridgexmedia.com. I'm on IG at The Real Nia Hill, and Facebook, ODXstudios.com is also another way they can reach out.
Okay,
That's where
cool,
I
cool.
play.
Well, thank you
TikTok,
for
I'm on
joining.
TikTok. So it's Nia
Awesome.
T Hill.
Okay,
So, and just for the record, so my
okay.
full name,
It's
I
like,
want to give homage to my father and my mother here, is Niama. In West
yeah,
Africa, it's
okay.
Niam, means mother of purpose. Niama to Mia Hill.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
All right.
Okay. You're definitely living that out.
Thank you. Thank you. And
That's
Jeremy,
amazing.
thank you for doing what you're
Yeah,
doing and providing
cool.
a platform for people like
Of
me to come
course.
on and offer, whatever we can to whomever needs it. It's just medicine,
Yes.
right? I just want to make
Yeah.
sure that there's always
Yeah.
medicine in the food. I'm giving the food, but there's nutrients all in
Yes.
that. And we all need it. We all need it.
That's it.
Yeah, of
Thank you
course.
for that. And then to the listener, thank you for tuning in to the Jeremy Haselwood Show for season 3. And if you enjoyed today's episode, don't forget to follow or subscribe so you'll be notified when the new episode and the new season drops. And next season, we're actually going to dig into the music industry a little bit and give you a bird's eye view of the different players that help make it all happen. So until next time, keep following your dream to find your purpose.
Indeed. Touche.
All right.
Say that.